Welcome to the news at 4:30. 11 people want to be Prince George's County's next top leader. They are vying to fill the county executive seat, the office once held by now U.S. Senator Angela Alsobrooks. Early voting begins February 26. Now, we have invited all of the candidates in our studio live with us to talk about the issues that matter to so many of you at home, especially those of you in Prince George's County. Today, we start with Democrat Tonya Sweat, who likes to go by Tonya. Well, she's an attorney who manages her own consulting firm that specializes in consumer protection and leadership development. She's also done a little substitute teaching in the county as well. Ms. Sweat, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you for having me, and happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to you as well. You're actually like the first person to actually say happy Valentine's Day to me, so I appreciate that. I heart you as well.
I was going to say, don't tell my husband.
Right. You know, I think we have to start with the question that's important to everyone. Why are you running? What's in it for voters?
Well, I've lived in Prince George's County now for a while, and as an attorney, former government, study our county, and I'm going to be frank with you, Larry. Like most people in Prince George's County, I'm mad as hell. The county should be a lot better off than it is. Our school system is still bottom of the barrel in Maryland. We've now 2 years in a row suffered a deficit in our budget, and our services are being cut because of that. But our property taxes continue to go up. Our small businesses are suffering. We got this major curfew now for our children from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. in a small portion, private property in our county. And we're all asking, what's going on? What's the problem here? And why is it not being effectively addressed? Like many people, I kept saying they need to do something. And I realized one day, who am I asking to do something? Why don't you do it, kid? You've been doing this for 30 years of your life. You understand how this works. You do something. And the best thing for me to do is to run for office.
So let's talk about taxes. That was something that you certainly have mentioned. Prince George's County has one of the highest property tax rates in the state, yet county residents often complain about trash and snow removal. We have reported on this issue several times, most recently with this latest storm, where the county did a little bit better, but still some complaints, at least from the last storm that we saw in early January. I want to play a little sound that we have from some of our viewers out in Prince George's County that talked about this most recent snow removal. Let's take a listen.
We forgive them because they did the right thing, and they came and they scraped our street just great this morning. It was just awesome to wake up to see a street that was clear. They may have been understaffed and may not have had the right resources and manpower to actually do the job.
Well, it appears from this neighborhood they may have got that squared away.
Yes, they did. My wife, she calls, she goes online, and she does all of that as far as, and she did for the previous snow, and she got results this time.
All right, that was viewers talking about this latest snow removal that we saw on Tuesday, where arguably county services did a lot better this time than what we saw in early January, which many residents said was a mess. People want to know, as a candidate, as someone that is vying to become the next county executive in Prince George's County, what are you going to do about issues like this?
First of all, I tell everyone, having served in the military, and I want our residents to know, and I want you to know, when I was brought here in December of 1999 as a member of the United States Air Force, I was brought to serve on the Armed Forces Inaugural Committee's task force to plan an inauguration for our President of the United States. The one thing I learned in the military is how to plan, practice, plan, and execute. That's one thing I know in Prince George's County we don't do well. Snow removal is something that we should prepare for every single year, whether it happens or not, because there's always that possibility. We know hurricane season is June 1st through December 31st. We generally get a lot of rain in the area. We need to plan to make sure we have sandbags ready for our residents, those who suffer flooding. They do it in Alexandria. Why can't we do it in Prince George's County? Those are things the Office of Emergency Management should be doing constantly, planning for the next season, for the next cycle. That's the responsibility of the county executive to make sure it happens. The Office of Emergency Management works for the county executive. So if we're not preparing for what's to come, then we're always caught with our pants down. We're always reacting, and we're never ready to take care of our citizens. That's one of the things I want to change, and I will change as the county executive of Prince George's.
And in your opinion, is this a matter of poor planning or poor execution?
Both. We didn't plan for it. I mean, our meteorologists every fall give us predictions for what the snowfall is going to be in the winter. At that moment in time, we need to immediately say, okay, if we are going to get 12 inches of snow in January, do we have the brine to treat the roads? Do we have the salt? Do we have what we need? Are our trucks serviced and ready to go? Do we have the personnel in place? Mm-hmm. I mean, the stories that I've heard coming out of Prince George's County after that first snowfall was insulting, offensive, and appalling to me as a taxpayer. No one should be worried about whether they're going to get paid overtime. That should have been planned out months in advance. So yes, planning was a problem, and then execution was a problem because we had the people waiting and they didn't even know what to do or when to move. That's not good. All the other counties in this area were on it. Whether it's treating the night before, whether it's moving the tractors and the trucks to scrape the roads as soon as the snow started, it was happening everywhere except Prince George's County. This is nothing new.
Well, Ms. Sweat, what exactly is your plan regarding this issue? I mean, people, it's easy, people look at this and say, yeah, the complaints have been out there, the concerns have been out there, but no one has a real plan in terms of how to improve both the planning and the efficiency. What specifically will you do to address both of those points?
Specifically, one, I'm going to hire experts who have the training and the experience to do this. We have that treasure trove in Prince George's County, and many of those people are not being used in our local government. I know who they are, where they are. And I'm going to hire them to do the job and make sure we're ready. We're going to put the plans in writing so that we don't have to make it up as we go along. You put it in writing and it's there on the shelf every year. Secondly, we got to look at our budget and make sure the resources are available, whether it's equipment, whether it's the people, whether it's the supplies. Put it in place. If we don't need it, you store it until you do. And then you pull it off the shelf, you blow off the dust, and you keep it moving. That's something day one I will start to practice and put in place. And not only will I practice it, I'm going to tell our citizens, this is the plan. This is how we will handle it, so they're prepared for it as well.
Let's talk about crime, juvenile crime in particular, which is a major concern in the county. You know about it as a resident, also as a parent. Carjackings, auto thefts are primarily committed by juveniles in the county, marking a majority of the arrests that we have seen. How do you propose managing this problem, working with the police department to address this issue?
The crime is a symptom of a larger problem. Yes, the children, the youth who've been involved in crime, they have to suffer consequences. It's not about excusing it and letting it go. But we also have to address the real problem. And the real problem right now in Prince George's County is the fact that we're graduating children, teenagers, young adults, and they can't even read on an 8th grade level or do Algebra 1 math. I've talked to employers who try to hire our high school graduates, and many of them don't even know the zip code they live in. That's a failure of our school system. We have to fix that. So now what we're seeing is because we have youth, young adults who can't get jobs, desperate times call for desperate measures. They're turning to crime to meet their needs. We've got to address that. I've been working with the Maryland Department of Labor already to institute in Prince George's County a pre-apprenticeship program that will remediate and rehabilitate those who have graduated from high school with a diploma but can't find gainful employment because they lack the skills. I was talking to a voter earlier today, believe it or not, and she told me a young lady graduated from college with a degree and didn't have the interview skills to get a job. And now we have a college graduate in the county who's frustrated because I'm educated, I've got the credentials, but I can't get over the hump to get the job that I need. So now we have to prepare our youth, our young adults, to interview. We got to give them the soft skills that they need. So I'm looking at having our nonprofits who are interested in doing this type of work partner with the county and partner with the state to prepare our young people who are unemployed to take jobs in the trades. There is right now a big lack of HVAC technicians, electricians, plumbers, construction workers. Those are great jobs that have phenomenal pay that will help our families get out of the cycle of poverty.
But you're talking about that. That is something that is under the purview of the department, that's the school board and the education system.
Not the young adults, Larry.
But
once they graduate, the school system doesn't want anything to do with them anymore.
But you've been talking about the school system, the fact that the schools are failing according to you, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, we know that there are certainly performance issues in the county, but that is something that is directly in the purview of the school board. They are responsible for that.
Absolutely.
Yet the county is the one that sort of gets punished because, as you say, that the people that are graduating, the young people that are graduating may not have the necessary skills for them to do well.
Absolutely.
How are you working with the school board to address these issues if you understand that they play a key role in this problem?
And I've been a PTA mom for a long time. That was part of the reason why I substitute taught for a year after I left the federal government. I thought I was going to leave the practice of law then, because I wanted to understand what was going on in our school system. The other problem we're going to have, we're facing it big time. Governor Moore has already, in his proposed budget, slashed education. And he's saying we need to put a pause on the blueprint for Maryland's future. I advocated for that because I understood what was wrong in our school system, specifically in Prince George's County. So now for the governor to say we're going to put a pause on it, we're not going to implement it, is wrong, because all that's going to do is lead to more failure. Now, understanding Prince George's County is facing a deficit in its budget, the state is facing a deficit in its budget. As the county executive, it's going to be my responsibility to find revenue in other ways to make sure the Board of Education and the superintendent have the funds that they have to continue the implementation of the blueprint, even though the governor says we don't have to. In Maryland, we have home rule. Prince George's County can continue to educate its children because we have to do that. This is literally the fierce urgency of now. We can no longer allow our children to graduate and not be productive citizens.
But Ms. Sweat, it comes at a cost. 62% of the county's budget goes specifically toward education, and there are still performance issues even with that sort of investment. If you're the county executive, you got to balance a budget, and you got to find the money in order to do that.
Absolutely.
How are you going to find the money? Where's the money going to come from? And then how are you going to deal with the education issues where county residents are paying for a solid education and their kids are getting the sort of education that's being invested in?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you asked me that question. Economically, you're absolutely right. Prince George's County has got to do something about its revenue. Right now, we depend too heavily on real estate taxes to pay the bills. That's not good enough anymore. And we're facing cuts from the federal government in education. We're facing cuts from the state government, so we have to fill the gap. How will we do that? Our biggest tool that we have, we've never used: tourism. Our biggest attraction to our county is the Washington Commanders. And everybody says the Commanders are going to leave and go to RFK. I promise you they won't, because I'm going to fight for them if I'm elected to be the county executive.
And how exactly are you going to make that happen? I mean, let's be honest here. DC is moving forward, and aggressively so, with the indication that all signs are pointing to that the team is likely going to move to DC. They're working on the RFK Stadium site. They've already gotten the legislation signed in that regard. The team has been lobbying Congress for months in order to make this happen. You're talking about the fact that they're not going to leave Landover, but everyone else is talking about the fact that it's a done deal. What are you going to do to keep them there?
First of all, their lease doesn't end until 2027. Secondly,
That's only a couple of years away.
It's only a couple of years away, which overlaps the time I will be in office. Secondly, the House just passed a bill to revoke home rule from DC. Do you think the NFL wants to have to answer to the federal government every time they have a game in RFK? Because that's what that means.
But we know that it hasn't passed the Senate yet, nor has the president signed any sort of
Correct.
legislation.
But this is the thing. The Republicans control the House and the Senate. And if they passed it in the House, it's highly likely to pass in the Senate. And if it passes, yes, the president's going to sign it. If DC loses home rule, now you're giving control of the NFL to the federal government. I don't think any private corporation wants that to happen. So I think the NFL and the Commanders organization are going to rethink and relook their move. And I heard Mr. Harris say in his press conference a week or so ago that all options are still on the table. There's time for negotiations. If I get elected, day one, I'm going to request a meeting to get into the conversation, because that has been lacking in Prince George's County. The state has been doing all the talking, but nobody from Prince George's County has said to the commanders, we want you here. The commanders is one of our biggest constituents. They need to feel needed just like everybody else in the county.
All right, Ms. Sweat, we will have to leave it there. Looks like we are out of time. And of course, I had a lot more questions to talk with you about today. But thank you so much. We'll certainly have you back here. Best of luck to you along the campaign trail. And we appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Larry. And I will come back if you want.
All right. Thank you so much. A friendly reminder that early voting in Prince George's County begins on February 26th. The primary takes place on March 4th, and the general election will take place on June 3rd.